Right, I think we're running. I'm going to do a short tutorial on using fills in ArchiCAD. Hopefully most people are pretty familiar with fills. They're not particularly complicated, but there's probably some shortcuts that might be able to help you navigate around them a bit better and maybe streamline the way in which you do some of the work with fills. So here we go. This is I've just opened up a ArchiCAD template 23. What we should be starting all projects in now, and we should always start with the template, and we should frankly be using the 23 template as well. I'm going to go to a worksheet. I'm just going to pick a standard worksheet here to put a fill into. This one's the OS map or site location plan. And actually you'll find there's two fills in there already. If I just click on this here, you can see this is actually a fill. I know that because I click on it and it tells me at the top here that it's a fill. So there's a couple of examples here of actually fills that have been used here that have been set up in the template for the red and blue lines on site location plans. Properties of these are set to airspace. So you've got a white fill with a transparent background. And then there's a line around the outside which I can turn on and off here, which I can change the properties of the line around. So that's the first thing, I suppose, is that you can change obviously the display of your fill depending on what you're wanting to do with it. And the line around the outside you can turn on and off, clearly. And then within here we can change the property of the line, whether that be a dash line, a solid line, or any of the ones in there. Including quite a useful one is sort of hedges, wiggly lines, and I think there's a dash line, although that one's not very good there. And I think there's one here, this one's quite good, or sort of wiggly sort of line really, so we'll leave it as this for now. So you can change the properties of your fill, and the other aspect, which I would have thought most people should know, is you can actually turn on properties and show the area of a fill. Now, this is really useful, obviously, because you can get it to tell you what it is. So if you're doing site layouts, zones, although the zone tool is separate, then you can use that. The nice thing about this is that here, if I click on this measured area here, if I click on this little box here and go to custom text, it brings up the properties here, this is the measured area. So this is what you see here, which is in these sort of open brackets. Well, I can go into here now and I can start typing, and I can go area and put in some custom text, and it'll still maintain the area, but I can put some custom text in there which will stay the same. And then if I change my area, it'll alter the area but keeps the custom text the same, and this becomes responsive text. Pretty straightforward stuff really. In terms of the area, the fill, we've got lots of tools as you'd expect normally in a fill. So we can add a new node, which is I just grab a side, I can pull it out, I can add a node. I can also grab my fill, I can apply a curved edge to one of the edges. Probably not that useful, but interesting. I can edit a segment using a tangent and pull a side out. That's probably one of the more useful things, is you can actually drag a side in and out, and you can see as you pull it in and out, the top and bottom line follow the lines coming into it. I can offset all edges, and that's really useful if you want to make something smaller or larger. I can remove the it says extend neighbouring edges. If I click that, if I can find an edge where it'll allow me to do that to it, and it's not going to let me do that now, is it? No. Let's have a look. It's not going to let me do that on any of those. If I was to take an edge, and let's say for example if I do this one, I can apply a radius. So I can apply a radius around this corner using this corner here. I'm just going to go to my measure tool and just check to see what the distances are. That one's 24 meters, so I'm fine. So if I put a radius on here, and I'm going to say that's going to be 15 meters or 15,000. There you go, I've applied a radius to the corner of that. I can still extend it out, but the other thing I can do now is I can remove that. So I change my mind, I can remove it. I'm back to where I am. So if you've applied a custom corner to something, you can take it out, which is quite nice. Other tools in here are plus and minus. Now these ones I use all the time. Plus and minus, I want to add an X section to this area. I want to fill in this square down here or something like that. I can take this. I've got plus in here. You can see it's pulling out a rectangle. That's because of here my settings up the top left here. So I've got polygon, rectangular, or rotated rectangular. So you don't always want a rectangular thing. I can do a rotated rectangle. So I can pick the first point. Let's pick here, and then I can pull out a rectangle from it. Or I can do myself a polygon. So pick my squares here, and I'm gonna pull this down here. I've used the shift key here to lock the vertical once I start pulling it, and then I'm just gonna move the pet palette because it gets a bit annoying. Come into here, and I've added a bit on. Really useful tool for adding in areas to fills. Do it again. Go to here, pet palette, add an area in here. You can see here I've got my guidelines set, so I've got a corner there. As I pull this up, you can see it goes perpendicular to that corner, into here, and I've got an additional. Again, the same with a minus, I can take away, and it's not limited to adding or taking away on the outside. If I want to take away, I could take away something in the centre. So if I've got an overlay and I want to take out a section, I can do that. Pretty straightforward stuff, really. I can move my area around. I can rotate my fill, standard stuff. I can mirror my fill. And I can duplicate my fill. So this is, a multiply, something to multiply in other objects. I can multiply it by number or distance, but I'm not going to go into that today. That's a tool you can use with almost anything. So I've done that with my area here. My properties section down here, I'm going to just look at that next. I've got some details here. When I click on this arrow here, I can change the properties of the fill. So ordinarily it would probably pop up with the name of what it is, but it's not doing it at the moment, being annoying. And if I go into here, this is the same thing, but just listing the properties. So I've got drafting fills, and these are the different properties of fills. Drafting fills are, if I come out of here now, these are your standard drafting fills used for 2D geometry. Go into here, I've got my, I believe they're called surface fills. Cover fills, these are the things that would appear in plan if you were to put a fill into a site plan or something like that, and you want a cover fill. So if we change it to cover fill, I'm effectively presented with some different ones in here, all manner for tiles and masonry and things like that. So, and then the last two are different in that they more relate to building materials. The last one is actually building materials. This one says cut fill, and when I clicked on that, these ones are more representative of if you were doing a section through something, using it for detailing. And the final one here is building materials, and these are specifically the same building materials that you would get when you cut a section through ArchiCAD. So quite useful to know, and you can toggle on that and select those. So if you ever come into a fill, you're not got the one you want, you can toggle through and do different ones. So I'm just going to pick one in here on this drafting one. I'm going to pick 25% here. I'm then presented with two options here. I've got my pen, I've got my foreground and my background. If I was to pick something like bat insulation, which annoyingly is not showing anything at all, I'm going to pick none of it. This is why. I'm going to set this one here, this foreground, to black, and then I'm going to pick block cut fill. I've got two pens. I've got my foreground pen and my background pen. Foreground pen here applies to the lines and the background is to the background. So as I change my foreground, you can see that changes. Background here is set to transparent. Main ones to be aware of are you've got a series of colours, which are the pens, you've got transparent, and you've got white. Now you've also got this one as well. I'll be honest, I'm not really quite sure of the benefit of using that. So I would suggest that you either want a colour as a background, you want a white as a background, or you want a transparent. Transparent's really useful if you want to put a fill over the top of something, especially in planning. You actually want to see, if we move this now, you actually want to see the other object without bringing one to the forefront or the other to the back. If I then change the background to white, and I go display order and bring to front, you can see it blocks it out. Change it back to transparent and it appears, but with the lines over. So quite useful. You can set the background to transparent. So there you go. You've then got your colours as we talked about. You've got your line around your outside, which you can change. Contour line is this line here that's around the outside, so change that to black or something like that. You've then got construction method. So this is linked to project origin, which means when it brings it in, it'll be at this one's 45 degrees to the project origin. If I click on this little button here, next, you'll see in amongst here somewhere, it's absolutely tiny on this one here, there's a little origin button here. If I click that, you can just see it just moves my whole object around. If I change this to here, it's called a fill handle, I can actually change the origin of where the fill is. This is probably most useful when you're doing something like you want to do a grid. That's quite annoying because that's not helped at all. Let's change that to white. Let's see if we can pick a bigger grid, something where it appears. No, it's not going to appear, is it? Oh no, can't just about. Nope, doesn't work. So I'm going to skip on to the next one, and then I'll show you how. So, oh no, we'll go back to this one. So this is the origin, and then I've got a little grip handle here. As I pull that out, I'm just going to check my origin here, and it's not going to allow me to do it, is it? I'm going to go to the next one. There we go. It's allowing me to do it this time. By doing this, I can manipulate the display of the grid, and I can change the relative size of it, bigger or smaller, however I wish. And then I can grab hold of this handle here, and I can say, well, I want the origin to be here, or I want the origin to be somewhere else. So you might say, well, you've got a particular place in your plan here. This one doesn't work very well, does it? Because I haven't actually got any orthogonal things, but you can see what it does. It moves the origin around, so you might want to start tiling out from some location there. So there you go. So that's that. I can turn my area on and off. On and off. And that's probably the most what you need to know. You can obviously give it a personal ID, and you can use the renovation filter. Right, so I'm going to show you how to use adjacent fills or join adjacent fills. So we're on a fill tool. I've got a fill here. Let's imagine we're working on a site plan and we're trying to fill in some grass areas perhaps or something like that. And there happens to be lots of areas, but you want to use the magic wand tool to speed it up rather than going all the way around the perimeter and having to then to pick out all the corners. You could go around and say, well, I've got a fill here, I've got a fill there and a fill there. And it makes it a little bit quicker. We can go around a bit further, even fill that fill and that fill and that fill. But I didn't want to join them all separately. I want to draw them using the magic wand because it's nice and quick. And then, but then I'm left with lots of series of individual fills. This is also important. Like for example, if you've got a complex geometry. That was a really bad example. I'm going to use this one here instead. I'm going to delete that. So you've got an example here. You want to put a fill in which has got a curved edge to it, but you don't want to actually draw a a fill with a curved edge. Now you could you could draw some geometry and you could do this. You could add some node points in, and then you could take the center of that and we can pull it out, and I can do that. But let's say, for example, it's too complicated and you don't want to do that. So what you've done actually is you've done this. You've created a fill. What you want to do now is you want to say, well, I want to make all these fills here. I want to make them all the same fill because actually I don't want to leave them as separate fills, and actually want to delete all the line work afterwards. So I might want to go around and select all these fills here, and I'm just using the shift key to add them all together, so they're all one now. But the trouble is they're all separate fills, and if I move these objects now away, what you end up with is this. It looks awful. Now, one way of cheating is obviously to turn off the line work, which helps if I turn them all off. And of course that does work to some extent because they look like they're now one fill, sorry, but they're not actually one fill, are they? And the trouble with that is you go to move one or you leave it alone, somebody else comes into the project and they're all separate fills and somebody gets annoyed by it. So what you want to do is join them all together. So there is a tool for it. We can go to the reshape tool here and we go to fill consolidation. We go into here. And this gives us then an option here. It says merge identical adjoining fills, and pretty much out of the box it should work. If I click OK, and there you go, you've now got identical fills. There was another option in there, or there's a few other options, but you'll probably find that most of the time it would work out of the box. Not going to work now, is it? Because I haven't got a fill selected. Element reshape fill. It's not always going to work because I need to add another bit of a fill in there. There you go. But what I've got this time is I've got two fills which overlap. Shouldn't matter though. So what I can do is merge identical fills, but I can trim overlapping fills as well. If I click OK, there you go. It's now trimmed them back as well. So even if you've got fills which are overlaid, and they overlap, it'll trim them back, and I've got one fill. So really useful if you've got a complicated site plan or shape and you just want to go around nice and quickly with your Magic Wand tool, fill in lots of different areas with the fill tool and then merge them all together.